Journey through the darkness to the light. I promise I'm not drunk, y'all, at all, man. I'm dealing with my crazy equipment here, playing with these lights, just making it happen manually here on Trauma Drinker with your boy Romeo Jones. So bear with me, y'all. I've been playing with some light bulbs, and yeah, I think I like the other one better, but yeah, getting the camera to focus. But let's jump right in this. We are on day 6, alcohol free. We are on day 3 of the alcohol experiment with Annie Grace, and today, Annie Grace, forgive me. All right, I'm paying it forward as you directed us to do in chapter 24 of This Naked Mind. You said pay it forward. That's what I'm doing. So today, I'm gonna share a sample with you directly from Annie's book, and this is day 3. Okay, um, I'm gonna read it. It should take about 10 minutes or less, and then maybe we'll just I'll rant for another 5 minutes. But day 3, why we think we like to drink. True happiness, and here's a quote: true happiness comes from gaining insight and growing into your best possible self. Otherwise, all you're having is immediate gratification pleasure, which is fleeting and doesn't grow you as a person. Beautiful. All right, let's jump into this chapter. Clearly, we must like drinking. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it, right? At least in the beginning, we liked it. Right now, you might be struggling with how much you actually hate the after effects, but there's no denying that the first drink feels good. Before we can unpack all the complicated pieces of the alcohol puzzle, it's important to understand what's actually happening in the brain when we drink. So I'm out with my friends and I order a glass of wine. I've had a hard day at work and I'm looking forward to relaxing and laughing with people I love. That first glass that first glass makes me feel giggly and there's a little rush of euphoria. That makes me feel good, maybe for the first time all day. What's happening is that the wine artificially stimulates the area of my brain called the nucleus accumbens, or the pleasure center. The chemicals responsible for euphoria are endorphins, the same chemicals responsible for the good feelings when you exercise, right? What's the difference? One is artificial, okay, and one is official, if you will. It's not fake, it's the real deal, okay? So we dive in a little deeper. Dopamine and serotonin, two main chemicals, the two main chemicals work in pleasure in the pleasure center. Dopamine, which is responsible for desire and cravings, and serotonin, which is responsible for the feelings of satiety and inhibition. In a healthy brain, there is a delicate balance between the two, but alcohol throws that off balance. And so, as I'm drinking that glass of wine, lots of dopamine gets dumped into my system, making me want more of what gave me pleasure, the alcohol. Since the pleasure center has been artificially stimulated by an outside substance, my brain seeks to regain the correct balance. So it sends out a chemical downer called dynorphin. This actually suppresses my feelings of euphoria. And as the effects of the first glass starts to wear off, my sense of well-being actually falls below where it was when I started drinking. That means I'm lower than when I got off work after a hard day. Bummer. You catch that? The dopamine is still working though, and makes me crave more of what made me feel good. So I order another glass of wine and the cycle starts all over again. An unwanted effect that an unwanted effect is that in order to combat the depressing effects of alcohol, my body counteracts the alcohol by releasing things like adrenaline and cortisol. You may have heard of cortisol. It is also known as the stress hormone. So now, in my body's attempt to maintain homeostasis and combat the alcohol, I am lower than when I started. In other words, I now have to cross an even bigger gap to get above the baseline of pleasure. And that's miserable. Even worse, though, is that the alcohol is starting to affect other areas of my brain. My senses are being numbed, and my brain is actually slowing down. Eventually, I might slur my speech. Perhaps my vision blurs. I feel detached from reality. I convince myself that this is welcome back from the real world. Deep. And then last part here is the cycle continues. The drinking cycle continues, and I get more and more drunk. What was at first a nice tipsy feeling is now completely out of control. But I don't care because my brain isn't processing the long term meanings and implications of my behavior. Eventually, if I'm drinking a lot, it's been slowed down so much that I have to work hard to walk straight on my way to the restroom. My brain receptors have become numb, and my senses don't rely the information as well, and so memories aren't formed. I don't completely recall the embarrassing things I say or do while I'm drunk. I don't feel the pain I'm trying to escape. The stress from the workday fades away for a little while. but the stress remains when I sober up, and is compounded by the hangover I'm suffering from. The embarrassing photos show up on Facebook, and my best friend won't talk to me because I pissed her off so badly. Somehow, dot dot dot. I'm really not sure what happened. If you're reading this book, you know what I'm talking about. The initial rush doesn't last. The more drunk you get, the more you regret it when you sober up. It's a downward spiral. And if you're like me, you blame yourself. Why can't I get it together? Why am I so weak? What's wrong with me? All right. And then she closes out what she says today. Realize that the cycle has nothing to do with you being strong or weak. It has nothing to do with being good or bad person. It's a chemical brain reaction that happens to everyone. Although we all feel the effects slightly differently based on age, weight, sex, environment, the biological reactions are the same. You know, I noticed that kind of made the light pretty nice there. I'm going to try to hold that right there. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, I don't talk a lot about it yet, but because I'm here, I'll just share what I'm learning. And repetition is the mother of skill, right? Father always told me that, and he was so right, even before I accepted it. But I've been studying a lot on just CPTSD, right? Complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Some people will call it childhood PTSD because most CPTSDs derive in childhood, right? Those small T traumas, right? And a big thing that you suffer from with CPTSD is a feeling of not belonging. Excuse me. A feeling of not belonging, right? A loneliness, you know. Alone is good. You know, we all need some alone time, but loneliness is that's more of a deeper kind of thing going on there. And it's from a lack of, and if you don't feel like you belong, then you probably don't connect very well, right? So you feel disconnected. When you are connected, you get natural hits of the serotonin, the dopamine, you know, GABA, and all those all the chemicals that create euphoria with inside of yourself. I mean, she even mentioned it, right? She says the same thing. The chemicals responsible for euphoria, which alcohol produces artificially, are endorphins, the same chemicals responsible for good feelings when you exercise. For those of us who suffer from trauma, specifically those small T's, those childhood traumas, not just traumatic events, it's like the best friend you never had. You feel disconnected. You don't feel like you belong, even if you are in an environment where it's probably could be safe to connect. But due to your response of your wound, right, which trauma means wound in Greek, you're going to connect with that substance. In for the case of trauma, drinking alcohol. Now, there are other things going on, I'll tell you that, because whenever I'm not drinking today, guys, I'm not even going to say a big fail. We're winning. We get the goal going on being sober and doing the alcohol experiment, and I can do it better, y'all. The sugar. Too much sugar today. Too much. Reese Sticks, a fast break, Reese Cup Big, white chocolate Reese Cups, Twizzlers. Yeah, just the small little candy packages, but that's more than enough, right? But sugar plays on the nucleus accumbens as well as in artificially inflating these feelings of euphoria. Guess what alcohol breaks down into? Sugar. But we gonna start this thing one thing at a time, y'all. We not gonna try to eat this whole elephant at one time. Let's just start with the tippy toes. You know what I'm saying? The little pinky toe and the tippy toes. You know what I'm saying? But even throughout the experiment, right? It went on 18 months, y'all. It wasn't like I looked back at it after 18 months. I was looking at it the entire time. You feel me? I was totally looking at it the entire time. I'm like, what makes you even go and pick it up? Like, what makes you be like, hey, let's do it. Sometimes an excuse would be boredom. Sometimes that boredom and the loneliness and boredom was kind of intertwined. If I had to, to give a statement, but the euphoria that you get in the beginning, as she mentioned, right, when she's out with her girlfriends and the ones she loves, right? See, alcohol. Let's say this is baseline, right at my chin. Alcohol will take you here, right? But then when you go down, it's not just gonna take you here; it's gonna take you there. That's what she was saying, like, right? So imagine you keep doing this crazy cycle, right? You're here, and you go up, then you go down, and you go up, then you go down. That you will continuously be lower than from where you started. Once, and this is a whole nother topic. Once your body begins to balance itself and metabolize the alcohol, right? For your body to break down ethanol, which is what gets you drunk in alcohol, it has to create a chemical, a reaction called acealdehyde, I believe. Acealdehyde is poisonous, maybe even more poisonous than alcohol. So to get rid itself of the alcohol, it creates something, manufactures something more toxic than the alcohol, right? I don't know. It's like, oh, you bleach? Okay, I'm gonna be ammonia. You know what I mean? I'm gonna say pneumonia. It's just, and I don't even know if that's a good example, but you know what I mean? It creates something even more toxic to get rid of it. And then when it's time to break down the acid acetaldehyde, you get something I believe called acetate. And now it begins to really make sense why you feel like crap on the way down. But sometimes I give into the pleasure. No different than sugar, right? It's gonna feel good. Your blood sugar spikes, then it crashes. But now we start to move into some other health things, something like called diabetes. Now, if you can take some preventative measures to avoid that one, I'm just saying. Ooh. So, again, why we think we like to drink. We're caught in a cycle, a destructive, unhealthy cycle. And for those of us that come from trauma, and if you're on this channel, Trauma Drinker with Romeo Jones, you possibly more than likely do. It's even more dangerous because we're used to dysfunction, no patterns. That's our norm. It's what we know, right? But on day 3 of the alcohol experiment within the app, look, I got the audio book. I'm not playing. This the book right here. This Making Mine is right down there, but we're doing the alcohol experiment right now. And thank you for your patience with my equipment, y'all. I really started from nothing. Just watch. I'm like, if I could do it, you could do it too. Oh, bro. Okay. But there it is. This is day 3 within the app. I will put some links below. This is totally free. It's self-paced. And guess what? You can do it with me free of charge. You know what I mean? I'm also drop some links below, and maybe we can jump on the call and see it. How can I be of service? How can I help? Right? Because not only do I get to help, but I also get to start working and building a community. You don't want to do this alone. It's not something, we are mammals. We're meant to commune. But, all right, before she goes, the video is 19 minutes long today. And it just touches on what we read in the book. It goes into detail via video. And she also gives a short little description. It says, I'm sure you've heard the expression, it's not you, it's me. In this case, you can confidently say to alcohol, it's not me, it's you. You, alcohol, are to blame for my hangovers, my cravings, my indiscretions. It's time to take control back from this wicked, mind-altering, literal poison. Listen. You know why I read from the chapter today? Because I'm feeling a little like I got this, which is good. 18 months I was sober curious. After 18 months, I'm like, you know what I mean? The day I started this channel, I got fired coming in late. It really didn't have nothing to do with alcohol. If you had me, ironically, my phone, that's another story. My alarm didn't go off, and I had already had some previous history of being tardy. So, I just told the boss, let's just part ways. And he was like, oh, you beat me to it, kid. That's the short version of it with a little spruce on it. But one way or another, alcohol is just creating so much problems in my life. It's a bumpy road. It's like riding in a car with no shocks, no struts, no rotors. I mean, not rotors, no ball joints. It's just one bump is like boom. It's just exaggerated. When do we grow up? When do we go travel? When do we go be an example? When do we become a man so that we can help the kids do things and be a leader? So that's what I got today, y'all. Read from you. We are on day 3, day 6. Cause remember, I took 3 days just to clear my mind. Had to leave that alcohol alone to get my mind right. You know what I'm saying? At least just 3 days, well, I can get on camera and be a little sensible. A little sensible. How much more we want to lose? How much more? It's crazy how I use this book to reflect off the light of the camera. You know what I mean? Just looking at like, that wouldn't be aerodynamics, just like, reflections. Take the book away, it's real bright. I put the book just slightly over the lamp. It projects it up a little bit. Pretty cool. Not my department, but pretty cool to play with. So I love y'all. I'm leading the way one step at a time. I'm not going to be perfect. I told y'all, oh my gosh, the amount of sugar I consumed today, at 100 bars, I don't even want to guess. Y'all heard what I said. Reese Sticks, Reese Cups, white chocolate, Reese Cup, big, pack of Twizzlers. Not a huge pack, just a little mini pack. You know what I mean? A personal pack. You see in a grocery checkout line. Food, I'm not tripping on the food right now, y'all. That's a big one. Don't get me wrong. I have been heavy on the protein. But I'm not about to sit here and, I got to master alcohol, master sugar, and no. We know what we need to start with, the alcohol. Now, those other things will assist in a big way, right? I don't want to be just consuming sugar because at that point it's kind of a cross addiction, right? But I did it before. With this experiment, and I'm closing with this, y'all. I started drinking when I was 19. The longest I went was 10 months when my high school sweetheart loved me. My baby was like, enough is enough. I've been begging for years. I can't do this no more. You actually turn me off and you stink. You smell like alcohol. And when was the last time you brushed your teeth? You so damn drunk, I think you forgot to brush your teeth the last 2 days. It was, she just, and she don't come from that. At some point, the rose petal glasses came off. 10 months, okay? Prior to that, it was about 69, 70 days. A year after my father's passing, I'm like, bro, come on. We cannot just let another year go by and all I remember is getting drunk, or the lack thereof. Right, going to work every day at the golf course where I get paid to get drunk. I'm making money so I can support my habit and stay afloat. But really, 70 days. I did this. I went 73 days. I find it kind of crazy that I crashed out right after I passed my previous best in my entire career of drinking. Right here, from April 12th, 2024. Until about June 23rd, 2024. That's my personal second best. I have a lot of data, right? Some people say these are relapses. These are data points. Follow Annie Grace. I'm following her. You can follow me, follow her. Okay? There's so much information on the internet. Listen, bro, there's so many things I want to learn. Not just how to get sober or recover and trauma. Like, I like entrepreneurship, marketing, leadership. I also like productivity a little bit. And then also like biographies. So it's like you have to find what works and just stick with that. Like one thing, Thanksgiving coming up here next month, y'all. And I know I said I'm going to close. You know what I don't like about Thanksgiving? It's so many options. That's why I like having me a little girlfriend or something, you know what I'm saying? A little lady friend, like, hey, baby, you think you can make me a plate? And the ladies, they just love that. Baby, I thought you never asked. Please, because I'll go over there, I'll come back over here with a plate of rice. Like, boy, what you eating this Thanksgiving? Whew. My man, it's too many options. I go to the store for some cough syrup, and next thing you know, I got a bigger problem than the cough syrup. Too much cough syrup. What Annie Grace teaches works. I will master that, and I will relay it to you the best that I can. This is my call, and this is my destiny for this point in my life. building a coaching business around addressing addiction so we can go heal these traumas, treat them. Because the way I see it, sometimes what has happened to us is so deeply ingrained. I'm not sure. I have a lot to learn. I'm like, is this treatable? Is it preventable or just treatable? When you come from trauma, exercise might be a little bit more important to you than the person who doesn't, just because it helps you regulate yourself. Where somebody who don't come from a whole lot of trauma, they you know what I mean? 100 soldiers go to war. 20 come back with PTSD. 20% come back with PTSD. Why? The other ones come back and they integrate into normal life again. Well, maybe what happened at war was very triggering for what was going on inside of them as a result. You know? So I love y'all. Much love. Romeo Jones with the Trauma Drinker. All right, I'm going to sign off. Can't say it enough. I love you. I'll see you next time. Later.